Hello YouTube and welcome back into another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Medieval Dynasty and we're going to be bringing you another sort of, not really a guide, really just a topic video. And this one's going to be the 12 things that I think Medieval Dynasty really needs. Now this is going to be, it's not really in any particular order. A lot of these are going to be things that like I just personally have thought of. Other ones will be stuff that I've seen people say on the channel and I agree with, or I've seen people say elsewhere. And really, it's not like it needs all these things, but all of these things would be great additions to the game. I know a lot of people will be like, well, that's not what this game's about. But here's the thing. All of these things would work in this game. They would fit in the existing framework and make sense and make it better, enhance what already exists. And so far, Medieval Dynasty seems to be, at least, now I don't have all the sales figures in front of me, but it seems to be Toplitz Productions' best performing game yet, especially early on like this, because this is still early access, and it's already sold quite a few copies, and the community has accepted it pretty well. And that's because, honestly, it's probably, even though it is a niche game, it's probably their least niche game, because people enjoy medieval games like this where you can build stuff. It's a relatively popular type of game, whereas a lot of their other stuff like Lumberjack Dynasty or Farming Dynasty, yeah, there are certainly fans for that sort of stuff, but it's even more niche than this. So this one, I think, is their best potential to actually build a really big name for themselves. Prior to this game, I had never ever heard of this company. I probably never would have if it hadn't been for this game coming out. So with that being said, that's what I'm saying, is if they want to try to turn this game into something that is going to actually have some legs behind it, they're going to need at least some of these features. So the first one we're going to be talking about is more buildable stuff. And now, this game, it's got a lot of stuff to do in it. Obviously, managing your dynasty, and there's stories, and you can hunt and all that sort of stuff. But building really is the core of the game. It's definitely what you're going to spend the most time doing, and probably the most fun aspect of the game. Like, I think I definitely enjoy it the most. And as of now, you can build quite a bit. There's a decent amount of freedom to it, but it's relatively limited. Okay? And to demonstrate that, we'll just go through what you can build. First of all, you can craft all sorts of stuff, but that's not really building. In the buildings, you have 3 varieties of houses, 2 different resource buildings with 2 levels each, 2 different storages with 3 levels each. You have a series of barns and then a bunch of different animal sheds as well as fields. 2 different survival buildings with 2 levels, and 3 different crafting buildings, each with 3 levels. And then outside of that, you've got 2 things of furniture, a wash tub or an archery target, a variety of fences that you can make, 3 different levels of campfires that you can put up, and then some traps that you can use. Now, the traps aren't really, decorations or something you'd put in your settlement, but there's something you can build. Now, that's a decent system, and given that in this game you can place things almost anywhere as long as it's not too close to the nearest settlement, it works pretty well. But what this game could really use, and I'm sure they're going to add it, but I definitely think it should be an area of focus, would be more stuff to build. I came up with some things that I think that they should focus on. The first one is decorations, and now it could be all sorts of stuff. It could be weapons racks, or maybe smaller tool shed buildings that you can use just for storing hose and bags and scythes, and you can keep that by your fields or something like that. Smaller stuff that doesn't necessarily need to have a huge function, but you can add it into your village or your settlement to make it look more unique, make it feel a little bit more realistic. Because as of right now, decorating is pretty limited. There's fences, you've got fireplaces, as I said, you can put down wash tubs or archery targets. And if you wanted to improvise, you could drop tools or resources in areas to try and make it look like you could drop a pile of logs and you could have logs there. But that's not a super easy way to decorate, and it's also it has a tendency to get sloppy. So that's not a great way. So I think decorations would be good. Another one that I really would like, especially just the type of things that I like building, would be more fortifications. So as of right now, you can build walls. That's it. That's the only fortification you can build in the game. I've simulated gates by using a different type of walls, so they kind of look like an open gate right there. There are no gates. And as I've said in previous videos, that's definitely something I would really like. Gates that you could actually go through, and they would either automatically open and close when you go through them, or that you could close manually. And I think that would just add a lot to the game right there. But as some other fortifications, we could use different types of walls, maybe full height stone walls, maybe rudimentary battlements, towers would be nice. Up in the front here, I've tried to simulate kind of a tower feel, just A, give the wall a little bit more character, and B, kind of give it, so this is very, very rudimentary gatehouse. We've got one gate and two, as you can see on the other side, I've got one there, two little outcrops where you can stand up and kind of, it kind of simulates a tower, but really just more defensive battlements would be, defensive fortifications would be awesome. And so another thing that would be great would be furniture. So in other settlements, they have tables and chairs and stuff like that, and benches scattered outside and around in their yards outside of different buildings. And that's not something that we have the ability, so I believe eventually it will be something we have the ability to build, but I definitely think that would be value added for the game. And lastly, for more buildable stuff, I showed you the traps we can build. I'd like to be able to build large game traps, like bear pits or boar pits. Those are real things that people used to hunt in the medieval period, and I think they'd be a fun addition to the game. So yeah, that's number one. I think we need more buildable stuff. Number two is landscaping options. I know this is one that I'm not the only one that feels this way. So the first and most obvious thing is roads and paths. I would like to be able to put these down where I want to. So you should be able to get your shovel out or your hoe or whatever they want you to use, probably a shovel. Build a road. Build it just like you would a fence or whatever, except all you have to do is dig it, so it'd be more like farming. But you should be able to go from here to that gate over there and build yourself a road. Same thing goes for smaller paths. Some more landscaping stuff that I'd like to see. I'd like to be able to plant trees where I want to, like specific trees. If I want to put a birch tree and an oak tree right there, I could grow a birch tree and an oak tree right there. That seems pretty simple. Same thing goes for different types of plants. There's actually quite a few varieties of plants in the game. So you can see there's a shrub bush over there, and outside here we've got some more leafy fern-looking plants. Stuff like that. I think realistically that's something that's probably pretty easy to implement that you should be able to plant. Be able to simulate topiary and all that sort of stuff. And on that same note, rocks and boulders should be easy enough landscaping stuff to be able to add, and all those little things make it much, much easier to really customize a town and make it feel lived in and look really unique and just make it look good. So that's number two, landscaping options. Number three is I'd like to see more weapons. And as you can see, I've got my little iron knife here, a nice little slashing weapon, but this game doesn't have a lot of dedicated weapons. Most of what we would call weapons in this game are more like hunting tools. There's rudimentary spears and bows. And of course, crossbow, which is more of a weapon than a hunting tool. So I guess if I was going to call one weapon, one thing in this game, just a weapon, it'd be a crossbow. Because typically speaking, back in medieval period, you didn't really use a crossbow to go hunting. If you had some sort of a ranged weapon at all, it wouldn't be a bow probably if you were a peasant, and if it was, it certainly wouldn't be a crossbow. It'd probably be some sort of a really basic short bow, a hunting bow or whatever they would call it at the time. For more weapons, I don't have complicated tastes. I'd like swords. Swords would be cool, whether there was like a falchion or basic arming sword of some sort, maybe even hunting swords, something that, maybe lower class people would maybe be able to afford if they got real wealthy and decided they wanted a weapon. Swords would be fun. I love swords. Another thing that I'm surprised isn't in the game already and that I definitely think should be is slings. If you were going to drop me into this time period and make me a peasant and then tell me, okay, get a weapon and go hunting, it would almost certainly be a sling. They would have been available, they're easy to make, and it was a weapon that A, could be concealed very easily, and B, was, the materials were nothing, and it takes much more to make a bow than a sling, so the sling was way more common for hunting. So I would love to see that, and I think it'd be fun gameplay-wise, too. One that's a little bit more, probably rarer in this time period, and probably area, would be an atlatl. But I think that would also be fun. There's already spears in the game, and we use them as a throwing weapon primarily. So an atlatl is if you don't know, it's basically a stick with a leather thong on it that you use to launch spears or large darts. And I think that would be fun gameplay-wise as well. And then lastly, for weapons, maces and battle axes. I can live with them. Maybe pole arms, an actual spear. The spears they have in the game look like Stone Age crap. I would love to see medieval-looking spears. I don't think I've seen that complaint from anyone else, but it does bother me. This is, I like to estimate this at being like 9th or 10th century. The spears in this game look like Og, the caveman, made them shortly after discovering fire. So medieval spears would be more fun. So that's weapons. The next category of things that I'd like to see is armor. So if you played the game, you know that we can make clothing. Right here, in here is a clothing workshop. And you can't really see what you're wearing. So I don't know, third person view would also be cool. But, there's a variety of things you can make from different types of boots, gloves, pants, shirts, hoods, tunics, hats, and then bags, but you can't wear a bag. But I'd like to see armor. And that could be anything more basic and probably available for poor villagers in this time period, like padded gamson or maybe some type of leather or fur type clothing, clothing / armor. I know that would not technically count as armor to most people, and me saying leather armor would probably trigger Shadiversity, but it'd be nice. And there are some historical references to leather armor. You know, I agree with Shadiversity that it's definitely not as common as Hollywood would have you believe, but there are historical references to leather armor, especially hard leather armor. But anyway, and then of course chainmail, maybe lamellar armor. That would have been something that would have been available at this time period. Obviously, it depends on your region and all that sort of stuff, but lamellar armor certainly existed. And so there's all sorts of armor that exists in this time period and would be realistic to have, especially if you've got dedicated blacksmiths. I mean, maybe that's something that's going to come. We do have a forge that we don't use for anything. Maybe they're going to make us refine our iron and maybe make steel, and maybe we will get more advanced weapon and armor crafting techniques. I don't know. I can't see any other reason to have a forge that currently does nothing. So I assume at some point that will be added into the game. So yeah, that's armor. So we covered all the kind of things that I wanted to really break down. Now we'll go through some of the quicker things that are easier to explain, but that I think we definitely should have. So number 5 is the ability to equip armor and weapons, or in the case of currently, tools and clothing, to villagers. Look at this guy. He's my blacksmith, and boy, does he look funny. Like, check out that outfit. Just absolutely ridiculous. I've got tons of money by this time in the playthrough, and all sorts of resources. I could easily deck out everyone in this village with excellent gear, and make them all look awesome. So I would really like that ability, and I don't think it's that difficult to add something like that, so come on. Add something like that. Is the ability to, this is number 6 by the way, the ability to name and maybe register your town. So you see all these other settlements, kind of small and pitiful. Here's Gustovia, the main place. It's got a cool wall around that. I like how it actually shows that on the map. So here's mine over here. It is square footage wise the biggest. I think it has the most buildings, and I might have the highest population, but I can't say for sure. But it's just a cluster of unnamed buildings. I don't, you know, I'm no more important than this little cluster of buildings. So I would really like the ability to maybe once you get to a certain level, so we're at town development level, maybe once you get to village or town or something like that, like the second to last, you pay someone a certain amount of money and you can register your town name and maybe get some perks like, I don't know, cheaper taxes or something. But I'd really like that, so you could actually have a name for your town, and it feels weird for it to be like this. Because by this point developmentally, I should be probably the most important town in the area, especially because I'm centralized, so it'd be a beauty trading hub. So I'd like to be able to name my town. Is that unrealistic? I don't think so. So moving on. Number 7, trading caravans. Now, this could come in various forms. It could be assignable, like in Mount & Blade Bannerlord, where you hire caravans and hire guards for them to go places, and, you know, they could travel through the map and maybe leave the area and then come back later with exotic goods that you could trade for. It'd be a great way to introduce new resources into the game and both drive scarcity for them and not have to add things like trade for gold if you want to use it for something specifically, but you don't have to add a gold mine in this region. Realistically, there are areas where gold is not very common. So if I send a trading caravan out loaded with iron and it comes back with a teeny tiny bit of gold, for a trade, something, a fair exchange rate, but, something realistic like that, or silk or something, exotic stuff. It'd be a great way to add stuff like that into the game without having to add a way to harvest it or farm it. So trading caravans could work like that, or they could just be like, they could go around the region and you could maybe sell your goods to them. Maybe you could buy, like, their inventory would be different all the time, so sometimes you'd be able to buy certain things from them for great deals. So it'd just be another asset in the game to make the game more replayable and playable for longer periods of time. Number 8, random encounter missions. Now, in this game, as of right now, every time a season changes, you'll get new missions will pop up. There'll be these little exclamation marks, and it's like 5 or 6 different missions, and it'll randomly be through them. And some of them are pretty fun, some of them are pretty boring. But they're all very basic. The story missions in the game, I think, are pretty fun, especially if you read through them and actually get the story out of it. I enjoy them. But I think we could use some random encounter missions, and I came up with just a few ideas. So the first one could be maybe rescuing hunters or gatherers that are out in the field from a bear or wolf attack. You just come across them being attacked by a bear or wolf, and you can either save them or leave them to their fate. And maybe you gain reputation for it, maybe you gain hunting XP, and maybe you just get some money. Who knows, but that would be fun. Another one would be while you're out exploring, you could maybe find a lost or missing child or something like that, and they could tell you where they're from, and you could bring them home. So it'd be like an escort mission. That could be fun. Again, you could also have the choice to leave them there and, maybe suffer a reputation loss for it, or maybe not. Another one that kind of is a no-brainer would be archery competitions, because there's already a mission in the game where you're going to do that, so the mechanic's there. And another one is there's bows, there's arrows, and there are archery targets. So archery tournaments, I think, would be a good mission to pop up every once in a while. And then lastly, just basic recovering lost items. So far in the game, you'll get missions every once in a while where someone's like, I lost my hammer. Could you get me another one? And you just go make them a hammer and give it to them. What if you had one where it was, I was out mining and I lost my pickaxe because I had to run away or whatever. And so you got to go find this mine that the guy's talking about, or find this rocky outcrop. He could give you a general area or whatever. And maybe there's a bear by it that you got to kill before you can get the pickaxe back. Something to kind of give a little bit more depth to the missions. So that's number 8, random encounter missions. And number 9 we can tie into that is more story missions. My favorite missions from the game so far were basically the main story, which is going to be Unigost's story. He's the tax dude that you always have to pay taxes every spring. His story is fun. If you play through it till the end, first of all, it has multiple outcomes. It seems to be branching. And if you read through it, it's interesting. It's actually a decent tale, and it makes me excited that some of the mechanics that they kind of tease in that story might be getting introduced into the game at some point. Like, they might have the idea to expand in that direction. So I'd like more story content like that. I would like to be able to build up different characters in different villages, kind of see how their story unfolds along with yours. And some of them could be really good and some could be really bad, but I think that's fun. So that's number 9. Number 10 is more advanced crafting or artisanship. So basically in the game you can be a smith, you could be a farmer, you can make clothing. There's a few things like that you could really dedicate your time and skills to and get really good at them. But I think we could use some more. And some ideas that I've seen or thought of myself could be like maybe making beer or wine. So maybe some new crops, hops, barley, stuff like that. That you could make beer with, or maybe grapes. I don't know if this region would be considered warm enough for grapes, but to make wine. That'd be fun. Pottery, we already have clay, so pottery probably wouldn't be that much of a step. Beekeeping, it'd be cool to be able to keep bees and then use their honey for various things. And then we already have cherries and apples in the game, so having cherry or apple orchards seems like the logical next step. Season change. All right, so number 11 is combat, and I know a lot of people probably agree with me on this one. This game could really use some form of human-on-human conflict. Basically, the closest thing we have to combat right now is hunting. And that's fun, but, human-on-human would be more fun. And so I've come up with a various selection of ideas for how to make this work, or different ways to do this. And this is going to be a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, jump ahead a couple minutes. I can't tell you how many because I'm filming. But, so maybe Unigost. So if you've done the Unigost story, you'll know that at the end of it, one of the outcomes is you can drive him out of the valley, kind of in disgrace. So one of the ways to introduce combat into the game could be that he could come back with like a private army that he had from money he had stored somewhere or something like that, and he could take over a town. I was thinking this town down here, Hornica. And that could be kind of where he sets up his operations, and from there he could send out dangerous bandits that you might have to hunt, or you might have to fight if you come across them, or maybe they cause problems places. So I was thinking they could maybe cause problems for you while you're on the road, or maybe out in the wild. Could be random encounters, or it could even be repeating missions for like maybe if you have caravans and one of them goes missing. That could be something where you have to actually go find this caravan, and maybe sometimes you run into bandits and you have to fight them. Maybe sometimes you're guarding caravans. Like, it could be stuff like that. Or maybe even kidnapped villagers. Like, a villager goes missing from someplace. It could be a kid or an adult or whatever, and you got to go find them. So that could be good stuff where it could lead you into small-scale combat, like just a few people, or maybe just one person. And I don't know if the game could handle it, but I think it'd be interesting to look into maybe doing large-scale battles, because that could be fun. And we already have settlements that we can build, and if we did more fortifications and weapons, that would all kind of play together. So at that level, we could be talking just basic siege mechanics. We don't need trebuchets and siege towers, but you could have working gates, and then people could just try to beat them down with axes, and you could have set up archers to defend against them, or whatever, fight them as they come through, or try to fight them as they come over on ladders. Just basic stuff. It doesn't need to be super complex. And you could also introduce a garrison system. So this would be another way to add longevity to the game, because you'd have to equip these people, pay them, feed them, and they wouldn't be benefiting profit to your town other than security. So it would give you all the more reason to actually try to drive to make money. Because once you get to the point where I'm at in the game, I don't have to do any of the work. I've got tons of employees to do it for me, and I just make tons of money. So it would be a really deep feature that could add a lot of life to this game, and definitely more fun. So then lastly, number 12 is I'd like to be able to interact with other villagers in a more meaningful way. So maybe make alliances with them or become rivals. So the first kind of part of this could be trade deals. We could have exclusive trade deals with certain villages. So if you look at the map, there's this village on here, Jazerica. They're a fishing village. So maybe you make a trade deal with them to buy all their fish so nobody else can buy fish and you can corner the market. Or maybe you set up your own fishing town and you could compete with them and through that become rivals. So that could be fun. And this could introduce another feature where if your reputation gets low enough with a certain village, you could get in trouble for trespassing. You know, maybe it's serious, maybe they attack you, or maybe you just lose a little bit of reputation, or maybe they fine you for trespassing in their territory, but it could add, you know, a little bit more point to the game, like you want to sneak around, you don't want to get caught because you know they don't like you. You could also have something like defensive pacts if they were to introduce combat in any way, so that if you get attacked and you're in a good relationship with this other town that's nice and close by, they'll come and help you out. So that could be fun. Same thing could go for sort of alliances. And if you had a antagonist, whether it's Unigost or whoever, set up shop somewhere on the map, maybe they could try swaying villages to their side, and you could try swaying villages to your side. So it could be kind of like that. And then lastly, with this one, some basic feudalism functions, because this game is at its core basically what you're role playing as is a real estate developer that hires a bunch of people to come live with you, and you pay all their taxes. Like that's what this game is. You don't own this town because you have to pay taxes on it all the time, and Unigost doesn't own it either. He's just kind of giving you permission. So like the premise of it is already a little shaky. What could fix that would be feudalism. So maybe there's some sort of a way where you can become a local lord or a petty lord or something like that, a baron, or you know, something on a low level where you're actually in charge of a certain area in this valley, and you can develop that area, and you pay taxes directly to the king, because that's how feudalism works. So you'd still have to pay taxes, but there would actually be an order to things. So the people who lived in your area could be serfs or sharecroppers, or you know, whatever the heck they do. I feel like that would add a lot of extra functionality to the game. So feudalism, I think, would be a great end goal for this, and maybe it allows you to rise up through the ranks. Maybe if you make trade deals with enough people or become rich enough, and you can buy out land or buy out people's debts so you have leverage over them, maybe you could become super powerful and eventually be in charge of the whole valley. Like, that definitely has a lot of potential. But so that is my 12 things that I think this game could actually really use and would really help it. Also that I think fit perfectly well within this game. Only time will tell where they're going to take this game, but like I said, this has potential to actually put them on the map for game studios that people are actually familiar with. So that's all I've got to say today. This is by no means a comprehensive list. If you have anything to say or add that you think I've missed or you think is a major oversight, let me know down in the comment section. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.